Good morning, guys. Welcome to my Monday morning rant for 19th of October. Um, it's been a really good week. I was really productive, as I have been for the last few weeks. Had a really awesome podcast with Andrew Hawkins of Motive Video. It's actually got the most views and comments of any of these new recent videos that I've made. So, I mean, it's not a huge amount of likes, not a huge amount of comments, but I think the platform's fucking dead. That's YouTube, and it's a good start. Like I'm glad that some people actually bothered to listen to the whole 2 hours. Um, I even got some messages from people that like I actually sat through the whole 2 hours as if like it's a fucking achievement. And maybe that's just the way the world's going these days. It's like sitting down for 2 hours and listening to something is fucking hard work. Um, but I'm really glad people liked it and people seem to get something good out of it. And yeah, even a few comments wanted to have Andrew back on, which I think there's no doubt that Andrew will be another guest again at some point. Um, we hardly even spoke about GTRs, and as GTR owners, both of us, I think we could just talk about GTRs for the entire podcast. So yeah, maybe in future. Um, Tomorrow I've got Alexi from Nori Yaro. That's going to be awesome. He reached out to me last week, I think it was, and said, "Look, Justin, I disagree with a lot of stuff you say, but I like you. So let's do a podcast." And I fucking love that. Like, I just think it's so rad. He's awesome. And I'm looking forward to hearing what he disagrees with. um, so yeah, if any of you guys are listening to this on a Monday morning and you have questions you'd like to ask Alexi for the podcast tomorrow, please do leave your questions in the comments below or send them to me by DM, whatever you prefer. Um, Also, yesterday I did a podcast. Oh, it wasn't so much a podcast; it was more an interview with a journalist, Matthew from New York, and he's doing a project called A Year From Now. The concept being he interviews people going through some heavy shit right now, and then in a year from now, he intends to get back to them and see whether they have achieved their goals. It was a bit of a weird one for me because it was specifically on bipolar and depression. And uh, I wouldn't say that I'm in the thick of it. I have been clean of medication for 3 months now, and I'm really on my climb back out of the hole still, but just feeling better than ever. And he tried to nail me down on what my goals are for this next whole year, which suited his concepts for his show. But I don't specifically have a goal. I just want to feel more alive and keep that up as opposed to specifically trying to hone in on a project or a new business or something like that. So so yeah, but it was a really good podcast because we delved pretty deep into how my depression kicked in and how I dealt with it and all the therapy and all the medicine and all that shit. So I think he's a good interviewer. Like initially, I thought he was coming in on negative angles in order to get more interesting answers, but I had a word with him about that previously, and and he kind of agreed that that's the angle he likes to take on things, but it's just not my angle on things, and I found that a little bit strange for someone to um, ask potentially a negative question in order to get a more interesting answer. It's not really my style, but anyone if anyone's ever asked me a question or any interview, I've been given a boring, simple question, I'm just going to say what I want to say anyway. So it works for me. It's okay. Um, Another thing that's been really strange, like the last few days, I don't know if you guys have the same thing as me, or agree with me on this, but I really strongly believe in the power of manifestation or positive manifestation. It's like, I know there's karma and there's all of that. It's sort of all intertwined, but uh, just those really weird kind of like almost deja vu like moments. I had three of those last week. One of them, a guy that I used to call a friend that just had a big falling out with. Someone on my Discord just randomly mentioned his name, and I replied back saying, "Yeah, it's a real shame. Like I missed the guy. Like I have all respect in the world for what he does as a profession, but it's a shame that he hit me when I'm down, when I was down." And it's funny because the very next day he liked one of my comments on social media, which is just trippy, but it's so trippy, but not, it's like these things just always fucking happen to me. Um, and then a mate of mine on Discord also said, we were having a conversation about an old mate of mine that I've lost touch with. And um, the very next day, this guy who I was talking to on Discord about saw this guy in real life. And last night I messaged him. So, and this morning he replied. So it's like, oh, it just feels so good. It's this sort of, you can either keep it in or let it out. And when you let it out, things just start happening. And I just put it down to positive manifestation. Like, I mean, maybe it's not just manifestation, but you can't leave these things in your head. Um, I mean, there were even more instances of that. Like, one guy I reached out to yesterday legit said, like, "Holy fuck, I've been meaning to contact you." And two people actually, another person that I still call to this day, like one of my very best friends, and it was just really late at night last night, and I reached out to her to say g'day, and she said that I've been on her mind a lot lately, and we just had an awesome chat last night. It was fucking great. And she's totally down to do a podcast with me too. So that'd be great because her and I have such a history. Like, she actually was such a good mate for so many years and ended up being a flatmate of mine as well at some point. So we have such a huge history, and I can't wait to just do a podcast with her, but more so just to like catch up with her. That'll be awesome. Another thing I noticed on Facebook, that on the Zen Garage Facebook page, there's a new service or new tool of theirs where they're encouraging people to do a Q&A, and you basically have this little big text and little box that you get to pose a question, and people who like your page get to ask a question, ask questions. And um, I tried it and there was no response for a couple of days, but I checked back on it last night and there were a couple of questions. It's not great, but hey, some questions are better than none. So I actually think I might start using that tool to gather questions for these Monday morning rants. Um, yeah, I don't think it's a bad idea. And there's a whole lot of diversity when it comes to people that follow Zen. So I think it's not just car guys. I don't think the questions are all going to be about cars. Um, so I'm gonna start running through some of these questions that I got, starting with the first one. Um, for a multi-day road trip, would you sacrifice comfort and luxury for the experience of driving a sports track prepped car for the next couple of thousand miles? Miles, hey, not kilometers. Taking into consideration limited space for luggage or a passenger. Let's also consider a 911 or maybe a Miata. Okay, Miata, not MX-5. So this guy's from the US for sure. All right, so multi-day road trip fuck, they're fun, right? Any road trip is fun. You know, everyone has memories of their first few road trips where it's just freedom. It's exactly what it is. And heading into the unknown and all of that shit. And fuck, you know that what it's like when you get sleepy at the wheel. I can get sleepy at a wheel on a highway within the first 40 minutes. But then once you break through that, you can drive like a fucking machine for hours. You know, like my first serious girlfriend of 7 years, she lived in Canberra. So nearly every second weekend, I would be driving to Canberra. Um, Driving to Byron and Queensland. Fuck, man, I've done so many long drives and they've all been awesome adventures. So, would I sacrifice comfort and luxury for a sport or track prepped car experience? Honestly, I'd probably rather have um, comfort. I have driven modified cars long distances, like when as a crew with Zen Garage we drove to Queensland for the All Stars show. All of our cars were fucking loud, fucking low. um but damn, that was fun. You know, when you're driving in a convoy of modified cars on a road trip, there was nothing quite like it. It was insane. um but yeah, I think I would rather go in comfort, and I would rather have aircon and a really good sound system. You know, I know in my GTR, if I had to drive that long distance, I've got no aircon in that. I've got no radio in that. Uh, and there are fucking huge holes in the ground. There's no carpet, and the floor pan gets so hot that your shoes melt. So, yeah, in this instance, or at where I am in life right now, I would 100% go for something comfortable. But then again, like you mentioned, a 911 or a Miata. Well, fuck, man. Like, European sports cars are so luxurious and comfortable. So I think the answer is, if you have a modified or slightly modified European car, like at stage two, stage three tune, you know, a bit lower than stock, and a nice sounding exhaust. The interiors are just so padded up that you can't hear shit on the outside anyway. They're just so comfortable, and their sound systems that are built in have already got like both speakers, or you know, I don't know, some rad speakers. And um, I think that's the answer. A modified, track prepped Euro car would probably have the best of both worlds. And that way, when you do those random stops on the highway, which you do, you still have a beautiful car to shoot. You know, I'm sure if you got this ugly luxury fucking family wagon or something, you would not be shooting that car when you stop. It just wouldn't be a car trip. It would just be a road trip, great experiences, but you're not going to be turning back and looking at your car when it's parked outside of a vineyard or something like that. Um, all right, so moving on to the next question. Um, do you find the processes of podcast and weekly rant? Oh, this guy's English isn't great. Do you find the processes of podcast and weekly rant somehow meditating and helping you develop forward vision? Yes, I get what you're trying to ask, and 100% I find them therapeutic as fuck. It's almost like what I was ranting on about a second ago about positive manifestations, right? Like, y- getting it all out is so therapeutic. Well, for me anyway, it is super therapeutic. It's like, I've never been shy of this shit though. Like, I don't think like shit needs to be perfect before you get it out. If you're that kind of person in life, you're just wasting time, mate. Like, all these people that are writing music and they've got all the fucking best audio gear on the planet. You know, the musicians that they fucking love are using this equipment. So they feel so good that they've got all this gear. And when I ask those guys, like, let me listen to something, they're like, oh no, it's not finished yet. It's not perfect yet. And they're the kind of people that will never fucking release anything. There's a huge problem with people who don't think they're good enough or it's just not good enough, and they they feel conquered and before they've even started. Um, like to put that immense weight on yourself to only release something that's perfect, um, is ridiculous to me, because you can only get better through experience and feedback. You know, like if you speak to any musician out there, chances are their very first recordings, when they talk about it, listen back to it, they're going to be a little bit embarrassed by it, because they like their current shit way better than the shit that they were writing years ago. So you got to start somewhere. So I find these podcasts for me, yeah, I'm not focusing on awesome video quality. I haven't got multiple video cameras that are doing different angles. I mean, I've seen some podcasts where people are panning cameras from slow panning them on a fucking train track from left to right while they're talking. I'm like, what is this, a fucking action film? Like, you don't have to do that. You don't have to act. You don't have to like go, hello, is this camera on? And like walk into the room and sit down and go, guys, blah, blah, blah. You don't have to act and shit. Just fucking do it. Whatever software you've got, get better over time or as opportunities arise. And I think especially if you've got something to say, like I feel really sad that people don't try to write. Maybe they are embarrassed of their horrible spelling or getting their twos and twos wrong and theirs wrong. But like, who the fuck cares in the end of the day if you get it wrong? You'll only get better at it over time. More and more people are going to point it out to you, where it's all shit and stuff, and then rather than getting all upset about it, you could actually just take it on as good feedback and better things as you go. So yeah, 100%. I don't know about whether I find these podcasts like meditative at all, because meditation is something that I've tried to look into. Um, I tried to give it a go. I mean, fair call. I've only tried for a few hours, but just from trying, I know that again, it's something that you have to get good at. And I am more into a faster pace and a manic state than I am with a meditative state. Um, I think I'm good at channeling the manic shit into content rather than struggling with the manic shit to a point where I need to meditate in order to dissipate. Like, I don't think I need to calm my shit down. I think I need to use that build up of energy to get it out into the world. And yeah, in that sense it does feel meditative, but it's more that it's just more like a pure expression that artists might feel when they're lashing out on a canvas. Like when I'm painting on a canvas, and I paint with my hands, I don't use brushes, right? So when I paint on a canvas, it's everything. It is mental, it's physical, it's tactile, it's just getting shit out. um and not being afraid of the blank canvas. Like sometimes I look at a blank canvas for way too long and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sick of all these ideas that I have in my head of what to put on the blank canvas. And chances are when I start, whatever comes out is completely different to what I was thinking of in my head anyway. So it goes to prove that like you can either sit there and have this shit floating around in your head for days and months, but when you actually start something, you're creating something, everything's fucking awesome. And it might not turn out anything like what you had planned in your head, but that's the beauty of it. So, yes, 100%. I love doing these podcasts. And especially, with with being at home all the time too, like just talking to people is fucking awesome. Okay, next question. Can we get the Zen logo stamped on a pinger? No. You can do it. If you know some drug dealers making good ecstasy tablets and they want to use the Zen logo on a pinger, no, actually, no. I'm not going to give permission to that either. What if someone fucking dies? That's not going to make me feel good. Um, I've got nothing against pingers, man. I did so many pingers in my time. I was nearly doing them every single week, and they were really good pills. And over the years, the pingers just got so fucking shit that you'd have to take two or three of them at an event. And that's when I kind of tapped out. when the pingers got bad, when the pingers got shit, the drugs got shit, the quality was crap. Um, it's almost like some of the pingers that I was taking towards the end. You feel so queasy, you're almost going to throw up in the first half an hour or an hour. But then, you ride that out and then you have a good time. But I don't remember the pingers that I first took doing that at all. They were clean and they were great. You could sit there for 5 or 6 hours and rub your leg if you wanted to on the pingers that I used to take. But yeah, towards the end, it was just more like they weren't as intense. They weren't good. They were shit, man. So I'd assume now, all these years later, that pingers that you get out on the streets now would be totally crap. Like they're probably full of bug spray or something, or just household detergents or something. I have no idea what they cut that shit with. But yeah, to answer your question, uh, no, please. Next question. How to forge a career for yourself when the 9 to 5 grind path doesn't seem to be working? Oh, I mean, I'm Oh, geez, I'm almost speechless. Look, I think you should check out some of Jordan Peterson's videos on YouTube. Jordan Peterson, just Google YouTube, search his name, Jordan Peterson, 9 to 5, not happy with work or something like that. Just Google that shit, search that shit on YouTube, and you'll find quite a few videos of him specifically talking about this. And I agree with what he says. Like, it's funny because the podcast with Andrew last week, Andrew did mention that, like, yeah, the difference between him and I is that I have a safety net. Like, my mum is there to save my ass if I really can't make the fucking bills one month. I don't think I'm going to be a bum in the gutter because I do have the option of asking my mother for some money to help me out. But I don't want to like look at that and think like, holy fuck, like what do you want me to do? Disown my mother so that I can prove to you that I can do it on my own? Like it's one thing to be jealous of me for having having a safety net, but no humans are brought up equal on this planet. Some people have safety nets, some people don't. What are you going to do? Hate everyone that does have a safety net? Of course not, right? Like I know that if I got into trouble and I started to get really fucking bankrupt, which has happened to me many times, well, I'll fucking get some work in. I'll do some shitty logo jobs. I'll do some shitty website design. I'll do what it takes. I'll even get a fucking full-time job somewhere. Like I'm more than capable of getting a job somewhere that I'm not happy with to make the money in order to survive. But what you're talking about is this savage situation where so many people that I know of are doing the 9 to 5 and they fucking hate it. It's soul crushing. When you ask, imagine having a partner and you come home and your partner goes, "How's your day, love?" And you go, "Fucking shit." And all you do is complain about work all afternoon. I hop on Discord with my mates and a couple of them hate their jobs. And in the afternoon when we were gaming quite often, it would start with at least half an hour of these two guys just complaining about their jobs. And I just listen to it. And sometimes I would say, guys, there is a way out. But no, for some people, there isn't. And maybe they don't really want to get out of the 9 to 5 grind so much. Maybe they like complaining about it. Um, but what Jordan sort of says is that, like, in order to get out of a really comfortable 9 to 5 um, grindy situation in your life, you need to take some risks. So taking a risk means leaving that job, and then you realize not only do you have to take a risk, you have to do some fucking work. You've got to make a CV. You've got to do research and figure out who you want to send that CV out to. Then you've got to send the CVs out. You've got to get a nice suit ready. You've got to um, get interviews lined up. You've got to prepare for those interviews, and then you might have to move, and there's all these risks involved. But he then says, wouldn't it be a bigger risk if you stayed in your 9 to 5 job that you're not happy with, and you stayed in it for 10 years, 20 years? Isn't there a bigger risk in regretting the fact that you didn't take a risk earlier on to change your path, isn't that a bigger risk that you might one day look back on all this time that you've been unhappy in this job and actually regret spending all of that time in a job that you weren't happy with? I mean, you've got to weigh up the risks, like Jim Carrey said it as well. It's like his dad had two options in life and he took the more stable option because he had little Jim and thought that he would take the more stable job so that he could support the family. And turns out he got fucking fired anyway in the stable job. Shit happens. And they hit rock bottom. They hit absolute poverty. And maybe he should have taken the job that was more passion related as opposed to the job that was more secure because the security wasn't there anyway. Um, so yeah, there's lots of shit out there on YouTube. Um, I personally don't think I could do the 9 to 5 grind. There's a lack of freedom there. It's like it reminds me of school, You just gotta wake up, put on that shitty fucking uniform, put that fucking tie on, and go to school. And then, you need a fucking ring of the bell to tell you to go from one class to another. I'll tell you when you can eat and when you can stop mucking around playing in the playground. And I'm not a robot, so it just doesn't suit me. The whole um, regime um, of that just doesn't suit my lifestyle. And also, just working for the man, if I do not respect the boss, then there's no fucking way I'm going to survive. Like, if I do work for someone full time, and I have before, sure, and I have enjoyed working full time before because I liked the boss. I respected the boss. I actually thought that the guy that was running the ship was a legend. Multiple times I've worked for absolute legends, and I was more than happy during those stints of doing full time work. So, yeah, if you work for someone 9 to 5 and you fucking hate your boss or you hate the people that you work with because they're absolute imbeciles, then I feel for you because that's a tough one. You know, that's a real tough one. You talk about it as being the grind. Yeah, it's grinding you down, and it's your life. So, yeah, it's your call whether you take a risk on looking for a better situation. Um, but yeah, hey, it can be done. All right. Next question is the last question. Again, yeah, not many questions. Guys, I really hope I get more next week because I kind of enjoy this. This is cool. Are there any new collaborations coming up with regards to the clothing and accessories range? Man, like, look, Zen Garage is almost kind of where I want it to be right now. Like, it isn't about selling product for me. It's about feeling right when the right people buy it. So I've had a few sales recently, and these dudes have been rad. Like, I've been even in contact with them after they bought the stuff. And I think these guys know exactly why they're buying it because Zen is not anywhere near as viral and huge and a commotion as we once were. And when we were a big deal in the car scene and stuff, people were buying it because everybody else was buying it. And I fucking hated that. And yeah, I've put my business partners through absolute pain in being so emotional about this. Like, why couldn't I just look at it as, holy shit, Justin, we're making money. We're finally making money. And yeah, it didn't matter to me. Like, to me, what matters is that if you're buying Zen, it's because um you understand what the brand's about. And if someone asks you, oh, that's an interesting t-shirt, Zen, like, what does it mean? You have something to say about it. I like that. I like people that have something to say. You have an interpretation of it, of your own. When I was wearing Zen, and every time I go overseas, but when I was wearing Zen in Africa, people would ask about it. And I'd just spin off something. It'd almost be different with every person that I ask. But people always liked it. And that's where it's at, you know. And I've mentioned this a couple of times, but I meet a lot of new people, and when they come over to my place, especially, we get to hang out, chill out, sometimes go down to the beach, have coffee, or do a photo shoot or whatever. And if I like these people, I'll give them Zen gear. And I know 100% that when they're out there in the world wearing it, that they're representing the brand perfectly because they're really fucking cool people. And they're going out there, and I don't have to worry about someone wearing my brand, something that I put blood, sweat, and tears into, and representing it in a really bad way. Like if they're bad human beings, then I don't want them wearing Zen. So it's a tough one. To answer the question, no, there are not any upcoming collaborations. Um, and there are no upcoming new designs. Um, I've personally run out of Zen gear in my size. It's all like getting a bit ratty, so I can't just dip into the stock and take out my size anymore. So yeah, 100% the stock is low. So if anything, I might reprint some of the stuff. Um, hey, if I wanted to make sales, I'd make a new design, and that'll sell really well. But I'm happy. As much as I hate the school uniform and work uniforms, I actually prefer myself to wear Zen gear as a uniform in my everyday life because it fits me well. It's not crazy loud. It's black. I like wearing black. It's like a staple, and it's the everyday. And yeah, so if anything, I might reprint some stock at some point soon. But I really don't think that that anyone can expect any new products anytime soon. Not saying never, but uh, not anytime soon. All right, guys. So that is pretty much it. All the questions. I am looking forward to this week. I have done something this week that I don't usually do or haven't done in so many years, and that is to like load up the calendar. Like I had this issue for all these years where the stress of seeing so many things in the calendar, like a couple of things a day and every day of the week, it just got to me, and I started to get sloppy with it. And next thing you know, I'm backing out of things, and that looks really bad. It looks really bad when you say I'm going to do this, and then the time comes, and then you don't want to do it. You want to back out of it. Um, I don't want that to happen anymore. So, for so long there, I was just like making sure that I would load up Monday and then keep Tuesday off and then load up Wednesday and then keep Thursday clear. And because, shit happens too. Sometimes you got to run to the post office, or you gotta do stuff sometimes that just pops up. Um, so that way I thought that was more balanced to have a 1 day on, 1 day off. But to my surprise, I think it's because I've got so much energy right now and drive. I have loaded up this week with a shit ton of stuff. A podcast nearly every single day, shoots. It's gonna be a big week, and yeah, I'll see how I go. Like if I start to feel like it's too much, I'm sure I'll go back to my 1 day on, 1 day off, perhaps. But right now, I'm really enjoying it. I'm enjoying all this newfound energy. Um, my head's clearer and sharper than ever, and I really hope that I can keep it going. Um, yeah, look forward to the podcast with Alexi from Noriyaro tomorrow. He is a legend. I love him, and that should be a really good one. And yeah, enjoy your week, guys. I'm out of here. See yous.